Hello, everybody. I made it. Hope you guys. Oh, that's probably more noise than it's worth. So, how are you guys all doing? I can already see that there's been some chat going on.
Everybody. I made it.
Okay, I gotta fix that. All right. Welcome to the countdown stream. I, to be perfectly honest, had kind of gotten into a flow state working on something, and then I looked up and it was 12:59, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta get going. So luckily it didn't take long and I just started. So let's see, who we got in the chat today? Oh man, so many people. Okay, so things that are coming up. Because of illness last weekend, the stream with Mexi is going to be this weekend on Sunday. So here we go. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be pretty cool. And we've got another month of awesome videos coming out. And I guess some other cool news that I can drop on you all is that thank you, Jay John. Have a good time at work. One thing I can say is I'm pretty sure that Subscriber Appreciation Day for March is going to be Peter Coffin. So that's cool. And we've got a new video coming out at 2, which, very excited to see a new video come out. And this one I have no idea how it's going to do. I'm very on the fence. It could do very well. It could do very poorly. So we shall see. It's going to be about the fascist as a symbol, and so it talks about hate groups a little bit. Talks about Rome a little bit. Those are some favorites. And yeah, it's also a Patreon stretch goal. So it was an old Patreon stretch goal that I passed back in December, when I got a $40 patron who blew past 2 stretch goals in one go, which was interesting. So please, friends, what would you like to talk about today? What's the best romantic movie? Maybe it's just me, but I like funny movies that have a sort of romantic bent to them. Oh, who it is? Oh, spam caller. No problem, Ace. I hope you enjoyed it. It should be going live on Saturday on the So That Happened YouTube channel, so that'll be good. The other thing that I can mention is that... What was the thing I was going to mention? Hello, Michael Kirshner. Hello, Phrenomythic. Oh, yeah. So to answer Ace's question about best romantic movie, I would say the movie They Came Together. It is a very fun movie. It is technically a romantic comedy movie, but it makes fun of romantic comedies in a very fun way. And it stars Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler, and it didn't get a ton of attention when it came out, but it was really funny, and I think that you might enjoy that. So it's called They Came Together. Michael Kirscher telling us about podcast citations needed regarding one-state and two-state solutions in Israel. Pretty cool. That's pretty exciting subject to talk about. My video on Israel comes out at the end of March, so hold on to your butts for that one. I actually feel pretty good about it, though. And yeah, I also can say, too, that at least one, probably 2 now at least, of my videos in April are going to be non-filmed videos. They're going to be voiceover with motion graphics, because the YouTube space was booked for all of March. And so I can't film in March. I have to wait until April before I can go back, at least at the earliest. I still haven't been able to book a date yet. I'm checking every single day. So at the moment, I think that I'm not going to have a camera for the access to the studio for at least 2 videos, maybe more, depends. But I think it's a good thing because I'm under the impression that there's going to be a change in the near-term future when it comes to not change. Sorry. I think that one of the things I need to do is I need to be prepared as a person, as a channel, to be able to make content without the YouTube space, because it's not always likely that I'm going to be living in a city that has a studio like that I can use for free. And also, even if I do, I'm seeing now that that's not always the case. So that's always so I want to make sure that Step Back can weather these kinds of situations, which means that if I move to a kind of like a suburban type place, I might have to buy better camera equipment and set myself up a little studio. Or if I'm in a situation like I am now, where I still live in a tiny apartment, but I don't have access to the YouTube space all the time, then I might start making more motion graphics videos, which means I have to find efficient ways to make some visuals for that. So those things are going to be on my mind for the next month. And okay, so let's see what else we got. Let's move to some questions we got here. I have to see. Yeah, I haven't seen the Shawn video about the alt-right trying to claim that Wakanda is or that Black Panther is an alt-right movie, but it'd be funny to see if that's true. Is Cartoon Tristan still okay in that drawer he lives in nowadays? He's still there. It's an Adobe Illustrator file. I think I might redraw it if I'm going to do this, because I'm going to want to make something that I can be very efficient with. So I'm going to be very curious to see how I can draw those kinds of things. Anyways, Gerthag, any thoughts on China banning George Orwell's Animal Farm? That is a very good question. That is something that's... there's been 2 new stories that have kind of emerged out of the last few days from China. And some people say it's a reaction to the Chinese no longer having or the U.S. no longer getting involved in the world, and so China starting to assert itself more. But I'm not sure if that's true. I think this is mostly just the way that China was going anyway. And that is that the current leader of China, Xi Jinping, has done a couple things. There's been a movement to get rid of term limits for the president, which sort of is setting the stage for Xi Jinping to be basically a dictator for life. And there's also just recently, the Chinese government banned the book Animal Farm, which honestly, I was surprised that the Chinese hadn't already banned Animal Farm, because it's an amazing book that talks about the issues about totalitarianism using a sort of animal allegory to tell a story of the rise of Joseph Stalin. And as someone who was he was like a left communist who did not like the Soviet Union. He criticized, the internal inconsistencies of the Soviets when it came to their own ideals. And I think that he was pretty spot on the nose there. The thing, though, is that China is still very much modeled after a Stalinist model. So that don't surprise me. So I guess, yeah, it's pretty creepy, but I was surprised that they had allowed, because China also censors a lot of stuff. So the fact that Animal Farm is banned, I mean, it's very explicit. It's basically 2 news stories in a very short amount of time saying that there's going to be no... that authoritarianism is just the way they're going to be going. I haven't watched YouTube in a few days, so I haven't even seen the new ContraPoints video, which is so sad. How are you enjoying Stellaris? It's pretty good. I've played it maybe like 2 or 3 days. So after that stream, which, by the way, the game is way more slow now. It's probably hard to stream. It was a rough start, I will say. I tried 3 different games, and I just couldn't find a way to get ahead, and that kind of sucked. I'd really not sure what I was doing wrong. And so I tried to play through a few times, and I kept like playing for several decades and then losing, like ending up in a place where I was in the mid game, but I was like significantly behind all the rest of the empires in every conceivable metric. So obviously I wasn't playing correctly. Then they did a video about, or then I played again on Sunday, and it looked like they had made a patch. And when I played with the patch, it seemed like a lot of things had changed for the better, and it seems that something had balanced in quite a great way. But can you guys not hear me? Am I quiet? Ace, have you ever punched a Nazi? I have never punched a Nazi. I tried to save a Nazi and failed. When I was in university, one of my friends was a former neo-Nazi who was recovering, and I was trying to help him get better, but it didn't work out. And it was basically the Trump election that turned him back into a Nazi. So, yeah, that was a sad part of my life. Why do you keep your hair short? Because my hair is super... You guys don't see it when it's like this, but it's super curly. And so when I grow my hair out, like if I had long hair, I would look like Hurley or like the singer from Coheed and Cambria, if that's still relevant. So that does not look great. Well, it can look good if you grow it out long, but I always find I get into this awkward phase where my hair is probably coming out to here and it looks really lame, and I just cut it. Yeah. It was rough. China still communist or rather semi-capitalist? China has a wonderful mix of the best or the worst of both worlds when it comes to communism and capitalism. It has all the inequality and brutality of capitalism, and it has all of the authoritarian totalitarianness of Soviet-style communism. So, yeah. It's not great. China sounds just awful to me. But still, for many people, like when it comes to, because of that friend of mine who used to be a neo-Nazi, I guess who is again, I have been thinking and talking about hate groups for longer than just the 2016 election cycle. And so I'm very much a person who has a bill, or who sees hate groups as sort of this, as what it is. It's a sort of cult. It's a sort of social pathology. And I do think that we should talk about people like in the alt-right and people who are getting into these things, not as someone who needs to be killed or eliminated, because that doesn't accomplish anything, but you do need to talk about them as if they have been indoctrinated into a cult and they need to be saved. And I do think that if we saw more people as needing to be saved from hate, which seems to bear fruit because there's a few people who are very prominent activists and speakers who were in hate groups and had been saved. And there is like pathways out, like there's organizations that focus on trying to get people out of hatred, get people out of like skinhead groups and neo-Nazi groups. And now that that's online and much more prevalent, doesn't make the pathology any less pathological. And so I do think that there's a lot of ways that we could try to save folks. And I hope that that's my I hope that that's a future. That's my shtick about hate. And I would really prefer if we less talked about Nazis as people we need to. I mean, I still love mocking Nazis for being incredibly intellectually dishonest, but when it comes to like the people themselves, it really should be somebody that we should really be talking about saving people. Erasing Hate is a really good documentary. Yes, The Giant Soda, you are correct. All right. Would you make a Step Back History video about China? I'd find that interesting for sure. That would be a tall order. I mean, China is a country that has been around for several thousand years in some form or another. So you'd have to be a bit more specific because honestly, Chinese, like doing just a video on China would be, that could be a channel in and of itself, let alone a video. Have you seen Narcos on Netflix? I have not. It's on my list to see someday. There was a false school shooting alarm yesterday at your high school because of a violent Twitter thread against different high schools. Nobody was hurt, fortunately. Well, that's good news, I guess. What do you think about feminazis, feminists who think all men are sexist pigs? Yeah, as Phrenomythic kind of said, the term feminazi was coined by Rush Limbaugh, and it's funny because it's a term that has disappeared as the right have turned more into actual Nazis. But the only group of self-identified feminists active today that I have major disagreements with, and I think are in any way deserving of a word like feminazi, is I wouldn't even call them feminazis because I wouldn't even call them feminists. But those are TERFs, which are hardcore radical feminists who don't believe that trans women are women and are very transphobic and even sometimes make overages to the far right. And I think that that is difficult. Yeah, isn't it somebody's birthday today? Forgot that it was like Spartan 101's birthday. Happy birthday. You were talking about whether you were going to be missing class because of... Yeah. Trans-exclusive radical feminism is not feminism, and it is a hate group. I'm very sad because I used to call myself a radical feminist, because radical feminism, as opposed to like, it's not you, it's an E, it's TERF, trans exclusive. And so I used to call myself a radical feminist, and it's because the difference between, there's like different schools of feminism. There's like a sort of anarchist feminism, which I also subscribe to, which puts the gender oppression alongside the other forms of illegitimate authority, like how anarchists try to interrogate all forms of hierarchy. They see the unjustified hierarchy of gender as part of that. Oh yeah, definitely sex worker exclusive radical feminists are a problem too, and they are and of course kink shaming and all that kind of stuff. There's a really great video by Libertarian Socialist Rants about those genres of about the different flavors of feminism and why anarchist feminism is the superior model for looking at to interrogate feminism, or to be a feminist, I guess. But radical feminists, at least until they decided to just start hating trans people, was a term for feminists who were interrogating the entire concept of gender, and their whole idea was to move to a post-gender society, which I thought was a good idea until apparently that meant hating trans people, which is pretty shitty, I gotta say. And then there's and of course there's like, you know, intersectional feminism, which believes in, like, you know, talking about race and class and all sorts of things, which I just kind of, just to me sounds like anarchist feminism. I don't understand. It's like trying to put a non-radical adjective on anarchist feminism. But then there's also liberal feminism, which is like, you know, the hire more women guards type of feminism, which I actually saw a recent article that was like the epitome of liberal feminism, which was like this this article celebrating women entering into jobs that men had previously controlled, which, like, you know, that's good. But it was an article about Raytheon hiring women to design ballistic missiles, and I was like, oh no, don't do that. So yeah, that's so sad. What are your thoughts on the Holocaust bill, which passed in Poland? I've heard about it. I don't know a whole lot. I know that it's basically trying to minimize the role that Poles played in the Holocaust, which is super shitty and kind of speaks to like this really creepy Nazi movement that is rising in lots of parts of Europe, especially Eastern Europe. That's pretty creepy. Yeah, not great. Yeah, Phrenomythic. The thing about the whole thing about, yeah, anti-feminism has like really poisoned a lot of people. And yeah, there's a lot of people. I think the idea that feminists hate men is mostly, like 99.99% of the time, is not. It's histrionics. It's not true, and it's dangerous. Now there are a few, but you know, that's not enough to be like a cohesive movement. It's just a few people, like, but whatever. There are people who hate men, and sometimes they have decent reasons for it. So it's a bit of a different thing. Oh boy, what's your opinion on the sex industry and prostitution? I think that while, like, you know, not my favorite thing in the world, I don't really like the commoditization of sex. I don't really like the commoditization of anything. But if people are going to work in it, then I'd prefer they lived in a safe and inclusive environment where they could have the protections of being workers. And so why don't we do that? I think that many people have learned, or should learn by this point, that you can't just stop people from doing something by banning it. all you do is make it illegal and put it in the hands of criminals. And really, you've got to try to use your resources in a more cohesive manner. And so I would really recommend that if I were in charge, I would have it so that sex workers would have the rights and protections and things that they have available that other workers have. It's not the government's role to tell people to do stuff. Albeit, I would prefer a world where prostitution didn't make sense because we had an icky feeling when we thought about the idea of commoditizing sex. I mean, I prefer we didn't commoditize anything, especially human relations. And commoditizing, turning sex into like a service that can be purchased, feels gross to me in the same way that like buying friends would. You know? Oh, we've got a concern troll? Okay. What do you think about PragerU's choice to sue YouTube? Oh, man, I think that his name is Daniel Prager, right? Oh, man, he is such a joke. He is the most joke of a human being ever. He kind of ruins everything about him just by existing. I know that PragerU is sadly like a really toxic, corrupting force on YouTube and like indoctrinating people into radical right-wing politics, but holy baloney. I do think that there's that he's just such a joke. Oh, man. Don't you think that good old imperialist war is better with more female soldiers? I don't like imperialist war. Ban Mr. Martel for being an ordinary troll. Thank you. Thank you, Fedor. You are doing a good service. What do you think is the best way to make liberal feminists more woke? Perhaps explain the concept of reproductive labor's role in capitalism. So I think that a lot of liberal feminists are pretty like open, like they're not bad people. I don't think that they're bad people. I think that they are kind of, as people, as you kind of mentioned in the question, they're the like opposite of woke. They do a thing. So everybody, and this is part of everybody's position on things. Everybody starts out their life. We know when you're a baby, you are only concerned about yourself. When you're a child, you are pathologically selfish. When you grow up, when you're a teenager, you are also very self-centered. You have you develop empathy and sympathy for other people as you get older. I don't know what happens when you like get like really old and you start being super shitty, but I don't know. But I do think that there's a lot of people today, especially these like edgy Gen Z alt-righter people, who are just doing it because they're young and they don't understand the consequences of their actions. And that they don't realize, they don't have the same capacity for empathizing with other people as they will when they're a little bit older. And I hope that a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them will become more empathetic as they get older. Now, with liberal feminists, I think that they are still fairly, like, they are fairly just people. They believe in a just society. It's just that they have grown up in a world that is liberal. They have grown up in a world of this sort of paper-thin act of, where like paper-thin acts of action can be paper, like these like really thin things can be considered real life, real activism. And I do think that when you talk to a lot of liberal feminists, the way to convince them is basically to to talk about politics. It's not to attack their feminism. they're they believe they're doing the right thing. They believe in the equality of women, and they believe in pushing towards a just society. It's just that they haven't, and they either have not entertained a class-based look at the world, or they haven't gotten involved in, or they've rejected it. And then if they've rejected it, then at least, you know, liberal feminists are better than liberal anti-feminists. And if they haven't rejected it, then they haven't heard of class and thought about, you know, race and thought about how all of these different categories keep people down because of the horrors of what capitalism does to our society. Then then you might make them woke. I do think that a lot of liberal feminists' hearts are in the right place, and that I think that they are good people to talk to, and I think they're people we should be friendly with and not attack. It's just that it's just difficult. Yeah. Do you watch Star Wars? Yes, I do. I don't think I like it as much as a lot of people do, but I still think it's all right. I'm perfectly okay with it. Can you do a history of time travel, like kind of like a fiction thing? Man, like that science fiction, that step back science fiction series is seeming like more and more that like step back history of science fiction thing seems to be more and more desired, I swear. What's the reproductive role in capitalism? Well, 7, if somebody hasn't talked to you yet, it's that in capitalism, reproduction is part of the thing. I mean, to make more people, capitalism requires more people. Capitalism requires reproduction. And so there's a lot of talking about how things like anti-abortion movements and complaints about overpopulation and a lot of the restrictions put on the bodies of women are actually like capitalism reinforcing itself through reproduction in different ways. I'm really glossing over the details, but there is something to be said there. Oh, I see we have some Atlantic Canada, so you must be from Newfoundland. Talk about H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. All right. Let's see who we got next. Iwan Yanoka. Can you make a video series where you ruffle stomp PragerU's crappy history stuff? I don't know. I feel like sometimes that would be me getting into the dust. I think that I could do that, but like not do it like as a video response to PragerU specifically. And so I would probably hint at things if the subject breached kind of the bad history. But I have said a few times in these streams that if PragerU has made a video on a video subject that I want to make, I immediately want to make it because I think that I need like to be the counter PragerU on that history topic. What are your thoughts on this? The hot take of mine. Pablo Escobar was created by capitalism and died because of capitalism. In a way, Pablo Escobar was killed in what created him. In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, I don't know a ton about Pablo Escobar, but the drug trade is a product of capitalism, and a lot of the violence they create are a result of capitalism. So it makes sense to me. I don't know. I don't have a lot of subtleties on that because I don't know the details of the life of Pablo Escobar, but yeah. And I agree with what Fedora said about how competition is not hard-coded in your genes. We can learn to cooperate. That is my philosophy on life. Let's get step back ads playing before videos on YouTube. I could do that, Tyler Noonan, but that costs money, and I don't have that much money. But you can do that. I know some people who actually make money by grow their channel by buying YouTube ads for their channel. I haven't done that yet. Another thing that you can do actually is you can get popular enough that you can try to sell ad space on your channel and so your CPMs go way up, but I haven't been able to make that work. Do you think that liberal feminists embracing the term intersectionality is a sign of Marxist anarchist feminism's potential for wider appeal? I do. I do think that a lot of the principles of anarchism and socialism are actually pretty popular if you just don't use the term anarchism and socialism. They've become such loaded words that you just don't see that, like, you just don't see the impact. But I think that a lot of people, like, I think that anarchism and socialism are really just kindness and empathy and justice and fairness coded into a set of political rules. That's about it. Are you in the same time zone as me? If Dan lives in Newfoundland, then I think he's about half an hour ahead of me. I live in Toronto, so Dan, whatever your time zone is versus Toronto, that's what it is. You talk about human nature, which is pretty cool stuff. Do you think in a socialist society you'd be able to prevent hard drug black market? I do think that the hard drug black market is a result of the ban on soft drugs, and I do think that in a lot of cases, a lot of those drugs that are now illegal and very dangerous and potent used to be not very dangerous, not very potent before they were made illegal, and so I think that you could do some stuff. The Girthax, can you do a history of paratroopers? Now, you guys are saying I don't do war history, and that is by a rule true. I do have some ideas for how to approach such a topic, but I would not be able to approach it like, I think when I want to say I get away from war history, I think I want to get away from like maps with arrows on them type history, and I think that I have some plans to do some more military adjacent topics, but they would be more me approaching them as technology historians or as social historians or cultural historians, which don't talk about like battles and stuff like that, but might talk about innovations and causes and effects and things like that. I have some ideas, but nothing until like November of this year, because I'm going to do some stuff for the only World War I anniversary celebration that I really want to do, which is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War. An hour and a half ahead. All right. Would you make hard drugs legal? I'd try to. So I would make hard drugs legal. If I were like, there's a difference between like making your idealized society and what you would do if you were just put in charge today. And if I was put in charge today, I would decriminalize all drugs, because I would want to move very quickly to treating drug abuse as a medical problem, not a criminal problem. And I think that the way to solve a lot of the big drug problems of the world would be to fund and support different types of therapy and finding ways to get people out of drug addictions. That would be my hope. Would you ever run for political office? I've actually considered it once or twice, but the thing about politics that I think I would be bad at is that, well, like my wife lives in or works in government, and it is a system of harsh hierarchies. Like I think that I would do well at some parts of being a politician, but like I do know that opposition research, like any of the things that I've said on my channel, will probably disqualify me from most offices, and most public offices anyway. Anytime that the stakes are high enough that people would do oppo research, I'd probably get destroyed. But also, for the kind of stuff that I say in this kind of channel. But also, I think that I would be bad at some of the things that politicians need to do in order to work in the current system, which is like raise money and support things that you don't agree with on principle because you need their help for like a thing later on. And I don't know, I can't really compromise my values like that. And so I feel like, and I also don't lie to people, or I don't like lying to people. And so I think I'd be a bad politician. I think that some things, talking to constituents and trying to get things passed, I feel like I could do well at those jobs, but not enough for the other things to not outweigh it. That being said, I have been involved in politics in the past. Nothing at the government level, but I was in a competitive election for a academic senate job at my university when I was an undergrad. I was the humanities senator for a year. And when I was there, I tried to make some like legitimate changes to make the humanities better off at that university. When I went to grad school, though, I changed universities, and history moved from the arts and humanities to social science. I didn't fit in as well in social science, so I didn't get involved. But I was a union steward when I was in. I was a union steward for 2 years in grad school. So that's politics. But like running for like MP or MPP or city councilor or anything like that, I feel like would just not be for me. I do think that a lot of this chat here is probably European, except for a few, because of my recording this or doing this in the middle of the day. But also, it's happy to know that Think Fact's here. Hey. Hey, Dale. I haven't seen you around in a while. Do you think that capitalist alienation would explain why even middle-class people use hard drugs in the first place? Yes. I do think that a lot of drug abuse, the kind of feeling of malaise, and also I think that to some extent even the wide prevalence of people having problems with depression are not all of them, but there is a distinct link between that and the fact that people just don't feel like they're feeling disconnected from the society they live in, and I think that has to do with capitalist alienation. Was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand the most important event in history? Well, Girthax, I would say that while on the surface it does seem like it was a very important event, I do think that the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand could have been a whole bunch of different events and had the same impact. I think that to say that the assassination of Franz Ferdinand is the most important event in history is like saying that when you blow up a thing of TNT, that it was the wick that exploded or the fuse that exploded. And I do think that the event was important because it exploded a whole bunch of dynamite that had been piling up all over for the last like century. But you know, that's that. Oh my, we have some Washington State people. I see a whole bunch of people around. I do think that, oh man. You know, it's kind of nice that you guys are just talking to each other. I'll let you do that, and I will, it is cool that we have people all the way from India to Washington. Like that is full global circumvention at the moment. That's crazy. Yeah, I do think that in 1914, like if it had not been Franz Ferdinand, it would have been an assassination of somebody, or it would have been some sort of diplomatic incident, or like there was like the Black Hand wasn't the only nationalist movement that was trying to push for stuff. I do think that World War I could have started earlier. It could have started later. There was an incident between Greece and Turkey that could have started, that came close to starting World War I. And there could be more. Oh, we've got an Italian. We got a Napoleon Italian. The sun never steps on the step back empire. Oh boy. I would be the worst emperor ever. Everyone would be like, Emperor, what should we do about this? And I'd be like, I don't know, what do you want? Oh man. I also, even though I've run for politics several times, Neapolitan, good ice. Even though I've run for politics a few times, I am allergic to authority. And every time I get a position of authority, I try to hand it over as fast as possible. But that's just me. I am also happy, Michael Kirshner, there was never a third world war. And I know that it's weird because there's like a segment of like young people on the internet who seem to want a third world war. And I'm just like, why? Why would you want this? Things are pretty safe and nice right now. And I would way prefer to be in a time of peace and prosperity than like, you know. Oh. Oh boy. I am so sorry, Doughboy DeVito, about your uncle. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Oh my. I would probably say that the best ice cream I ever had was a place near here. It was when I first moved to Toronto in the summer. And they were doing this like Thai ice cream, which is where they like have almost like a grill, but the grill is like cold in the way that like a grill is hot. So it's like a frozen slab. And they just pour the stuff to make the ice cream on it with all the ingredients. They make the ice cream right in front of you, and then they peel it off to make these like kind of like ice cream burrito type things. And I had one of those that had Earl Grey tea in it, and it was really good. I also remember having green tea ice cream and really liking that, and red bean ice cream. And I think those are all really good flavors for ice cream. So those usually can only get those in like Chinese restaurants, but I would probably say the Earl Grey tea ice cream was my favorite. Could you tell the Welsh Views that the whales got a red warning for snow tonight and tomorrow? Could you tell them to be careful? All right. For all the people in Wales, both of you, stay indoors because of snow. Your uncle joined the Mexican military at 16, fought against the Zapatista anarchists, and worked a shady job in the U.S., and his reward for serving capitalism is getting kicked out. Oh, gosh, you poor soul. I hope he turns out okay. I hope that he beats the system. You do a lot of videos about American politics and culture. Have you thought about doing more Canadian politics? Us Minnesotans are basically South Canada. The reason I do videos on American history is because I'm a U.S. historian, but I have done Canadian history videos before. They did all right. It's something that I want to do, but I would have to find really good stories for it, and I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about how I would do it right, because I don't know as much about Canada as I do about the U.S., and so I'd have to do it well. Do you like basketball? The Toronto Raptors are killing it. Well, that's good news. I think they're over in that direction somewhere. So the Raptors are over there, and I don't know what they're up to. The Halifax explosion. That could be fun. I'll write that one down. What part in Canada do you recommend me to visit? Halifax, you should go to Montreal. Montreal is my favorite city in Canada, hands down. Or Quebec City. I think that both of those are probably the best places in Canada to go. What's the Canadian weather like this time of year? It's usually pretty cold. It's usually freezing, but today and like the last like few weeks, it looks like it's been above zero. Like right now, my window's open. It's like 3 degrees outside. It's nice. It's probably going to be warmer soon. I think we just got spring early this year. I know that's weird because I think Europe's like freezing right now, is it not? But usually in like March, it's still below zero. It's still like negative 10, 15. At least where I am. Of course, Canada is a gigantic country and ranges all the way from like the literal Arctic to the kind of weather we have here, or the kind of weather we have in like Vancouver, where it's it never gets below like -2. So it's a big country. We have a whole lot of people. I learned most of what I know about Canada from you, Mexi, and the kids in the hall. Pretty good. Jacob, I would say that's a pretty good spread of information. Did you know the Maritimes helped the American South in the Civil War? Or not too long ago. Kind of took me by surprise. Yep. Yeah, Britain was kind of on the side of the Confederacy during the Civil War, and we were a British colony, so that doesn't surprise me much at all. Although Ontario was fiercely anti-slavery, so I think part of, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that part of Canada moving towards getting independence from Britain had to do with the Civil War and their stance they took on the Confederacy. But I can't verify that. But I've heard that before. What do you think of the United States sending warships to the Black Sea? Creepy. I don't like when America sends ships anywhere. I don't think. Is it to? I imagine it's because of Turkey or something, but or to deal with Syria, but I don't know. Also, if everything you know about Canada comes from me, Mexi, and the kids in the hall, well, Mexi and I are doing a stream this Sunday, so you should come out. That's like 2/3 of your knowledge about Canada. Cajuns are the descendants of people kicked out of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick after France gave up the colonies and the British after the French and Indian War. That is true. After we call it the 7 Years' War here, but they're called the Acadians. And there's still some here, but yeah, they're the ones who got exported to Louisiana became the Cajuns. Very true. There's still Acadians today. They live in New Brunswick, and they speak an incomprehensible form of French. I've been there, and when I tried talking to them, their French was so different from the one that I spoke that I was just confused the whole time. Do you think America will eventually change its stance on universal health care? I actually do. I don't know if Mexi is Mexican-Canadian. I don't know that much about her, but so I do think that America could probably in the 2020s even get themselves universal health care. I think that Americans would get it, as soon as America passes universal health care bill, they're going to be so proud of it. They're going to think that they invented healthcare themselves, and it's going to be obnoxious. But I think that just like with, gay rights and everything like that, that America is a country where it looks like something is impossible right up until it happens. And I think that that's going to be true of universal healthcare too. If you had the ability to have a discussion with Jordan Peterson, would you? Giant Soda, I would have a private conversation with Jordan Peterson. I don't think I would have a debate, especially not on my platform. If I was debating him on his platform, maybe. If he wanted to talk to me on my platform, no. And if we were going to meet up with coffee and like I was going to figure out how the hell he believes the things he believes, then yes, I would do that. But I would never give him a platform on my thing because I don't think that just feeds into him getting more attention. Well, if your family's all Acadian, Dale, then you probably know that the French they speak is completely incomprehensible. I don't think I think O Canada was made by a French person. And I think it was designed me just find it. It was designed. No, it was written in after the Civil War. It was written in 1880. Yeah, it was the Canadian national anthem was written as a Saint Jean Baptiste celebration, which is like the national holiday of Quebec. I'm very sorry, Shachar. Oh boy. But this seems to be a very good time for my videos to come out. Got Connecticut. I know that Dale's from Maine. So got a lot of New Englanders. That's nice. Oh. We've got about 3 minutes and a bit left. So what do you guys want to talk about? Do some rapid fire question answering. Ooh. And then the video goes live. Live video for everyone. Oh. Feels like it's been forever since the last video. Is marriage still relevant in the 21st century? Unfortunately, yes. The government gives you all sorts of benefits for being married, and some of them would be hard to manage if marriage didn't exist. So I guess it is, but ideally we would not have marriage, or it would just be like its own thing that people do for religious reasons. But I mean, marriage is fun too. I mean, I'm married. I enjoy it. My wedding was fun, so it's not the worst. Gnosticism. Gnosticism's in the process. It's here. I can give you a date for my Gnosticism video. At the moment, my Gnosticism video is set to come out on May 24th. So 24th of May, I'm supposed to have a Gnosticism video come out. I did write some stuff down about Magnus Hirschschild, so don't worry, your things have gone down. Are you ever going to do a collab with Religion for Breakfast? Probably. Him and we have not collaborated in the formal sense, but on my video about the Holy Prepuce, my video about the Holy Prepuce was heavily helped by him. We had a kind of background. We had kind of a talk in DMs on Twitter about my script, and he looked it over and he gave me a lot of pointers. So the Prepuce video was kind of a collaboration with him, and I gave him a shout out in the video, if you remember. LGBTQ monarchs in history, that would be pretty fun. Waka waka. How far in advance do you plan your videos? So I've been playing them more in advance, the more that I've been like getting regular. But at the moment, I've been trying to get into a routine where I write one script a week, and also release one video a week. And I have right now I have videos planned until the end of May for release date. But a lot of those get switched around too. So at the moment, I have scripts. I have videos filmed. I usually film about a month's worth of videos at a time at the YouTube space, but I might do more since it's harder to get a space now. I have the next 1, 2, 3, 4. I have the next 5 videos. So today's, next week's, and so on until about the end of March. I have all of those filmed. I have scripts written for 2 more after that. And then I have ideas of when the next ones are going to come out after that. So they're in different stages at different times. All right, I'm going to... The time is upon us. It's almost 2 o'clock, friends. And I gotta get the link for you guys. It's 2 o'clock. Oh my god! If only I can get my buttons to work. Oops. Oh man, I'm messing up so hard. Friends. Things are loading very slow for me. But yes, the new video is on the Fascis. I'm going to get a link in the chat in just a moment as soon as the page loads. Here's the new video, guys. Have a great one. Enjoy it. Like, share, subscribe, etc. You guys have a really great week. I'll see you next Thursday. I'll see you on Sunday for the Maxi Show. Bye.